I'm Laura Ingraham, and this is the Ingraham Angle, and we have breaking news on multiple fronts tonight. We're going to unpack it all for you, and I'll tell you, with the dust still settling on the split midterm result, another bombshell pierced the news cycle. Jeff Sessions is out. The Attorney General has submitted his resignation at President Trump's request. And we're going to have reaction to all the fallout in just moments, including what this could mean for the Mueller probe. It's freaking everyone out. Also tonight, my angle on what the midterm results mean for you and for this president. Plus, Trump takes it to the media. This was unbelievable today. I was screaming, laughing. Now, why a raucous White House press conference earlier today reveals the media have basically learned Zippo during these past 2 years. And Raymond Arroyo is here for Seen and Unseen. He tackles the big losers of last night, especially the celebrity stars who have started to fall. But we begin tonight with the news that pushed the midterms off the front page, the resignation of Jeff Sessions. All right, Sessions' departure comes less than 2 years after he angered Trump by recusing himself from the Russia probe. The president has repeatedly expressed his frustration over that original decision to recuse. Now, stepping in as acting attorney general is Matt Whitaker. He's a former U.S. attorney from Iowa who is serving now, or was, as Sessions' chief of staff. Now, Trump is said to have a very strong personal rapport with Whitaker, who, at least for now, will oversee the Mueller probe and the rest of the DOJ business, which includes, by the way, DOJ's other federal investigations, including those New York prosecutors were looking into the finances of the president and his former aides. Now, for what this AG resignation could mean, we're joined now by former U.S. Attorney Joe diGenova, who's not in the studio. So sad are we. Former Assistant U.S. Attorney and Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy, and George Terwilliger, former DOJ Deputy Attorney General, who actually became an acting AG himself. Now, Joe, let's start with you. Democrats are already calling for Whitaker to recuse himself because of his past statements on another network. He was a contributor, and he made some comments about the Mueller probe in writing. We'll get to some of them in a moment, but your reaction?
Well, those previous comments are not recusable comments. Mr. Whitaker is a fine person. He is completely independent. He knows about the administration of this particular case. I am delighted that supervision of this case has been taken away from Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein in light of his conduct, and I think that Mr. Whitaker will handle this fine. The Democrats are doing what they always do. When they don't have anything else, they just start screaming and yelling. This is an embarrassment to them, but it's going to continue, and Mr. Whitaker is going to be just fine.
George, I want to go to you since you were acting AG, and I remember now. I had forgotten. All right. So Schumer today said the following, George. He said, given his previous comments advocating defunding and imposing limitations on the Mueller investigation, Mr. Whitaker should recuse himself from its oversight for the duration of his time as acting attorney general. And just so people know what we're talking about, I want to play this soundbite from Mark Whitaker. Now, this, George, was from CNN, and it was back in July of 2017. Let's take a watch.
Well, I can see a scenario where Jeff Sessions is replaced with a recess appointment, and that Attorney General doesn't fire Bob Mueller, but he just reduces his budget so low that his investigation grinds to almost a halt.
Different life. He was working for a network.
Sure.
Grounds for recusal.
No. I mean, two quick points, Laura. One, if every time a lawyer made comments about some matter of public interest and then later got involved and would have to recuse himself, poor Joe, for example, wouldn't be able to practice law. But secondly, your point is well taken. The fact of the matter is that this was a different time, a different set of facts, and I'm sure Matt will make his decisions in this case based on whatever circumstances he becomes aware of.
And just for our viewers' edification here, as acting attorney general, you have all the powers of the attorney general, correct? You just simply haven't gone through Senate confirmation, and it's thought to be temporary. Could it be indefinite?
Well, there's under the Vacancies Act, there'll be some limitations of time, and Matt can't be nominated to succeed to his own position while he's in the position. And there are a couple of exceptions, such as he can't sign FISAs.
Oh, okay. Now this is getting very interesting. All right, we got to go to Andy here. John Brennan, your favorite, Andy, was out today, and Joe's favorite, was out today, of course, banging the same recusal drum that George was just referencing. Let's watch Brennan and company.
Matt Whitaker comes with a lot of baggage, and it's going to be quite evident, I think, whether or not he is going to fulfill his responsibilities now in that position.
Are you saying that Mr. Whitaker, with his public statements, public writings, and his comments on television, should be recused from overseeing the Mueller probe based on those statements?
I would think that there is a very strong case that, given his public acknowledgement of his prejudiced view on this issue, that he should recuse himself.
Andy, more recusal talk. It's what they pushed Sessions into doing. And I know there's a debate about that. I still say Sessions didn't have to recuse himself, but he rushed to recuse himself. A lot of pressure put on him, and he wilted under it, in my view. But is there really legitimate grounds here for a former commentator to have to recuse here?
No, Laura. I looked very carefully at what he said when he was at CNN. I'll actually have a column up about this at National Review tomorrow. He didn't say anything that was in the nature of recusable commentary. He didn't make any prejudgments about the investigation. He didn't say anything to denigrate what Mueller is up to. And what I find fascinating, and I'm not casting aspersions, I want to be clear, on Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein's ethics. But I haven't heard any of these guys complaining that Rosenstein is overseeing this investigation, notwithstanding that Mueller is investigating supposedly Trump for obstructing the investigation by firing Comey, a transaction in which Rosenstein is a key player. So if there's anybody in this equation that has a screaming conflict of interest, it's Rod Rosenstein, and I haven't heard these guys say a word about that.
All right, Joe, I have to ask you on picks for Attorney General. We all have maybe a couple ideas. What are your ideas?
Well, I have a couple of ideas which I've shared with the president, and I'm not going to share them with anybody else. Okay. So if I say any of my ideas, I will be sharing a conversation with the president.
I got it. Can you give us a vowel? And you know, can we do a Wheel of Fortune? I mean, my gosh, this is so frustrating. Now everybody's going to want. Okay, yeah, forget it.
There are plenty of great people. There are plenty of great people.
That's such an uncharacteristically vague answer from Joe DeGenova. He's always going right in for the day. All right, Terwilliger, couple ideas. Come on, just throw it out. This is a fun conversation. We don't know who.
I agree with Joe. There's lots of great people out there.
Am I the only one who's going to give the president any advice here on who should be? Okay, Andy. Do you have any other than Andy and Joe and George? Andy, Joe, George, Attorney General. Actually, Andy, would you take it if he asked you? Would you do
it? Laura, I don't need to be on the signature line. I'm content to not be in the caption under where it says U.S. versus. That's where I'm trying to stay at this point. And look, George Terwilliger and Joe DeGenova have been at the top of every single list of this question every single time I've ever been asked it. And boy, could the president ever do a lot worse.
Yeah, so we got Terwilliger on the list. I was just trying to hint around this, Andy. You gave it away. All right, so you got Joe on the list. You got Terwilliger on the list. Yes, you are. All right, I'm going to make a suggestion. And just to throw it out there, you can all criticize or attack. It's fine. I'm going to make a suggestion of Chris Christie. I'm going to tell you why. Okay, I think there are a number of reasons why Christie would be good. And we might have them out of order if we have a graphic. But number one, he has about an 18-year personal relationship with the president. They get along. They know each other. He has already walked through the media fire. He knows what it's like to be in the bright white spotlight of the New York media and, frankly, the national media. I think temperamentally, he and Trump are similar. I mean, they get along as people. They have kind of a similar style. I don't think that's a detriment in this job whatsoever. He was known as the tough-as-nails prosecutor, very well respected by career prosecutors at DOJ. I think, you know, the Bridgegate, I don't think any of that matters. I think with the number of Republicans we have now in the Senate, Christie would get confirmed. If the president said, this is the guy I want, I think Chris Christie would get confirmed. I don't think it would be much of a problem. And I don't think the beach photo, the beach closures, is going to knock him out of it, okay? That's my view. All right. Come on, Joe. Give me some thoughts on that. Christie.
Chris Christie would be fine. He's experienced, he's smart, he's intelligent. He would have the full confidence of the President of the United States, which is, to me, what was missing from the relationship with Jeff Sessions. The President is entitled to have a full-time Attorney General, and Christie could fulfill that role very nicely.
Andy McCarthy, what about Christie?
Now, I've had my policy disagreements with him, but no one can question his credentials. I'd be worried that the Bridgegate thing would be more of a problem than I think you're calculating, because I think they'd try to relitigate that whole thing.
But Republicans in Senate aren't going to relitigate it. If the president said, look, he's my guy, I know him, he's not going to wilt under pressure, he's not going to go recusal, 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 he's not going to do that. Plus, he has actually a good relationship with Mueller, right? I mean, he's not a good relationship. He respects Mueller. He's not been on TV saying it's a witch hunt, which I think would be a problem for him becoming Attorney General. He's been quite, I think, dispassionate in his overall analysis, Andy.
Yeah, no, look, all that's true. I just think, I probably think it would be more of a problem than you do in terms of the way it would play out at a confirmation hearing, but I do think he'd be confirmed, and I think he'd do a good job.
George,
and by the way, his lawyer in Bridgegate was Christopher Wray.
Okay, the tentacles all around us. All right, George, before we let you go, what do the Republicans have in store in the House of Representatives with a subpoena power? All these very anxious Democrats have been out of power for a while. Tax returns, emoluments clause, business dealings, they're itching for it.
It has the promise of getting really ugly. And I think the White House is going, and the administration in general, are going to have to make some very hard decisions about what things to fight, when to fight, and how to fight. But they're going to have to fight.
Well, and again, Christie's a fighter. I mean, anyone who's seen his old press conferences from New Jersey, some among the most entertaining, but he does it. He's really smart. That's true. And he's also, I mean, I think it's really important that somebody at the top of the Justice Department, particularly with these issues, actually be a real prosecutor, you know, and have who knows how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, who knows what it's all about. And I think that was a deficit, was it not, Joe, for Jeff Sessions. And Jeff Sessions, I think, is a very nice person. He's phenomenal on so many of the issues that Trump cares about, and was great. I love what he's doing on the marijuana thing. I'm with him on that. But he knows temperament versus real nuts and bolts experience in that regard. I think it's hard.
And he had another problem, and that is that the president insists on people who have command presence. That is certainly something which Chris Christie would bring to the job. And with Robert Mueller spending more than $38 million to produce absolutely nothing by way of Russian collusion, Christie would be the perfect overseer of that monstrosity.
And before we let you go, Andy, does the Mueller investigation, how do you see it developing at this point with the change of Sessions?
Oh, I think it's probably pretty ripe. I think Mueller's toward the end of what he's doing anyway. But I love that you want a wartime consigliere.
You bet. I go for the Italians, okay? This is the Italian mindset. I mean, we like the Irish too.
Joe, did I pronounce that right, Joe?
Yeah. Yes, you did.
Yes. Yes, you did.
Have you never
watched
Godfather? My God, have you never watched Godfather 1 and 2, the best movies ever made? All right, guys, fantastic. Thank you so much for your insight. And George, it's great to have you. Will you come back? You're
I'd love to.
I mean, you're much better than Joe and Andy. Oh, I'm just kidding. All right, for more on why Trump won and how the GOP could do it again, remember, get my copy of my new paperback. You're going to love it. Busting the Barricades, what I saw at the populist revolt in bookstores everywhere. And coming up, I'm going to tell you what the midterm elections really mean in a special election edition of The Angle. So stay there. Trump's victory and the Democrats' race to defeat. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All things considered, it was a very, very good night for Republicans and a major win for Donald Trump. Now, the president was absolutely tireless on the campaign trail. He stumped for Republican Senate candidates across the country. Trump ignored the advice of people like Paul Ryan, God bless him, and liberal media consultants, and he followed his own political instincts. And I'll say that those instincts are generally superior to all the so-called pros, many of who a few months ago, by the way, were predicting a big blue wave, which in the Senate was more like a wave goodbye for Democrats. And in the end, the president accurately laid out what this midterm would hinge on.
This will be the election of the caravan, Kavanaugh, law and order, tax cuts, and common sense. That's what it is, common sense.
Now, he couldn't have been more correct. In the end, the Republicans saw historic gains in the Senate, something that has only happened 3 times since 1906. And certainly, Kavanaugh, he ticked that off, was a huge factor. Almost all the Democratic senators in tight races who voted against Kavanaugh lost. And those who suggested that the president should have muted his talk of immigration on the campaign trail, hello, Paul Ryan, were simply wrong. Most pro-amnesty Republicans, well, they either retired or lost.
You had some that decided to, let's stay away, let's stay away. They did very poorly. Carlos Cubella, Mike Kaufman, too bad, Mike. Mia Love gave me no love. And Barbara Comstock was another one. Peter Roskam didn't want the embrace. Eric Paulson didn't want the embrace.
Why didn't they want the embrace? Mia Love didn't give me love. I'm sorry, but I was screaming. It was so funny. All right. So most of those who bucked the president on immigration, they crashed and burned. Still others like Paul Ryan, Jeff Flake, Bob Corker, as we said, they retired. And, of course, there were some exceptions. We got to be fair. Chris Kobach was basically attached at the hip with Trump on immigration, but he lost in Kansas's gubernatorial contest. Sadly, he just wasn't a great campaigner. But on the whole, Trump's strong immigration policies proved a deciding factor in both the Senate and gubernatorial victories in Florida, Texas, and in Georgia. Now, in Florida, for example, voters rated immigration the second most important issue. Just a few points behind health care. Check it out. 3 points. Now, these midterms also showed that neither political nor Hollywood star power paid off in Georgia or in Florida. And what the Democrats did achieve in these midterms was a, well, below average pickup of seats in the House against the party in power. The amazing thing is, with all this happening, the Democrats still really haven't learned anything. Since Donald Trump descended that big brass escalator in the tower, they've been trying to cast him as a racist, a homophobe, xenophobe, a biased. He's kind of like an Archie Bunker in a long red tie. Actually, Archie Bunker, a lot of people liked Archie, but it's just you can't put up with someone like Archie Bunker today. My friends, the Democrats are bereft of real ideas. So rather than offering some, they propose socialist-style freebies in health care, college, universal pre-K. And the Democrats, once again, by the way, went all in for identity politics in the midterms. They tried to argue that Brian Kemp in Georgia was trying to stop black people from voting. It's ridiculous. They tried to argue that Ron DeSantis in Florida was some kind of closet racist for questioning Gillum's ethics. And it went on and on and on. And even after they got shellacked in 2016 and lost the Senate last night, they're still dealing the race card.
He used every race dog whistle, every bigotry that he had.
Making overtly bigoted, racist statements, attacking brown people, attacking black people.
I want us to watch it because he's going to replace the caravan with a New York Jew, Jerry Nadler, a West Coast intellectual Jew, Adam Schiff, a black man, Elijah Cummings, and a woman, Nancy Pelosi.
The president
has enough support in enough places to win big races in states that have large enough rural populations to either offset suburban America or whatever.
It's those racist rural people. So how dare those country bumpkins ruin the country for the urbanite elites? Now, when the country rejects the left's racialization of politics, well, basically the Democrats just write them off altogether. I have a simple question, though, to ask. How do you build a political movement by hating on basically half of the American people? Rather than grapple with why this tactic fell flat last night, the media continued the race to the bottom during today's White House news conference.
On the campaign trail, you called yourself a nationalist. Some people saw that as emboldening white nationalists. Now people are also saying
I don't know why you'd
that
say
the
that.
president.
That's such a racist
There
question.
are some people that say that now the Republican Party is seen as supporting white nationalists because of your rhetoric. What do you make?
Why do I have my highest poll numbers ever with African Americans? Why do I have among the highest poll numbers with African Americans? I mean, why do I have my highest poll numbers? That's such a racist question.
Have you ever made
racist
remarks?
No, I would never do that, and I don't use racist remarks.
Well, one point of fact.
Go ahead.
One point of fact, because you told her you have
Quiet,
the highest
quiet,
approval among
quiet,
African
quiet. Go
Americans.
ahead.
It's just 8%, sir, single digits.
See, when you talk about division, it's people like this that cause division. Great division. No, point of fact is that I never used a racist remark. That's the point of fact.
The press was just absolutely reprehensible today. I have never seen anything like that. And the president is right. Rasmussen's tracking poll from October 29th has the president at a 40% approval among black respondents. So they can throw out their single digits all they want. Let's just take a sample, 40 to 8. Let's say it's 25. Now, it's good that the president smashed back against these obvious attempts to recast his victory and demonize his supporters. Here are the facts. The Democrats have lost 2 Supreme Court seats, the Senate, and the White House. And after 2 years of protests and nonstop attacks on Trump, they emerged from the midterms with no mandate. Good going, guys. There's no doubt the president, of course, now will have his work cut out for him. He's going to have to recalibrate his approach as the new year begins under Democratic House rule. So he'd be wise to do a few things. Begin to expand his movement beyond where it already is, and he's got to adapt to the changing demographics in key states. Occasionally, he should shift to a more moderate tone while not moderating his policies. He should offer to work with Democrats on issues of common concern, which, by the way, he did today. Watch.
I put that statement out on social media today about Nancy Pelosi, and a lot of people thought I was being sarcastic or I was kidding. I wasn't. I think she deserves it. She's fought long and hard. She's a very capable person. Nancy Pelosi and I can work together and get a lot of things done.
That was a great moment. But he's getting no credit for that. Now, sometimes the president might seem to think that showing his humanity, or softer, I don't want to say softer, but his humanity is a sign of weakness. It's not. And the turning on the charm sometimes, it resonates, especially with female voters. So going forward, the president should urge, by the way, separate from all the tone and how you should come off, the president should urge Mitch McConnell to go full steam ahead with Senate confirmations of both judges and members of the executive branch. The next Supreme Court nominee should be chosen without regard to gender, skin color, none of the bean counting. It should only be based on his or her conservative bona fides. Forget the bean counting. You don't need to do it. Now, don't fret the House investigations, Mr. President. We all know that Nadler, Maxine, Schiff, etc., will all take it a step too far in their fervor for payback, and the voters won't like that at all. President Trump will have to be more creative in advancing his agenda forward. But in the meantime, he should feel really good about what he accomplished, especially since the voters may have unwittingly given the president something he has needed for so long: a clear and worthy opponent. And that's the angle. All right, coming up, who were the biggest losers last night? Hollywood, for one. And they still haven't gotten the memo. Raymond Arroyo is here. Seen and unseen next. time for our Seen and Unseen segment, where we explore some of the big cultural stories of the day. Now, it could be the biggest Hollywood flop ever, maybe since the Ghostbusters reboot. Their political advocacy did not achieve what they had hoped. Joining us now, Raymond Arroyo, Fox News contributor, New York Times bestselling author of the just-released paperback Mother Angelica, Her Grand Silence. Everyone get out and get that. Now, Raymond, Hollywood just had a horrible night. They accused me of trolling Taylor Swift, by the way, and the Hollywood Reporter. I just sent a funny tweet. I think she's adorable.
Well, remember,
she's an adorable young
for
woman.
Many in Hollywood, Laura, in the Hollywood community, was to turn out that young vote. One of the biggest efforts was a star-studded telethon organized by comedian Ben Glebe. Jerry Lewis had the Love Network. This was the Resist Network. And as we reported the other night, the idea was you called in and pledged to vote, and a star would call you back. There was only one problem. No one knew who host Ben Glebe was, and they barely knew the stars at the phone bank. Watch.
We are going here into our celebrity phone bank. This is amazing. Look at these incredible people. We have your Ariel. This is, oh my God, hello, high fives, guys. We got Jamila Jamil here. We've got everybody here in the phone bank. We got Eric Griffin. Oh my God, we got, dang, Matt Smith, everybody. We've got an incredible lineup right here. Hello, everybody. We got Bill Bellamy, Deborah Messing, Fortune Feimster, Ike Barinholtz. Holy crap.
Not lovely.
Deborah Messing is the only person
one
I recognized in that entire lineup.
he's like, well, Joe Smith. He might as well just gone through the
John
telephone
Mack
book.
and Mike Brown. Needless to say, this effort did not produce much. There was a bump, though, in the youth vote. According to a tough study, there was a 10% increase in voters 18 to 29. But two-thirds of those were Democratic, and this is where things fell apart. A third were conservative. So despite Taylor Swift and Will Ferrell's efforts, there were young conservatives in the mix, which threw off Hollywood's intended effort.
Charlie Kirk. Maybe Charlie Kirk is on the college campuses. That might be working, the crossroads.
Look, the youth vote failed to flip any of the major races, Laura, in Florida, Georgia, Texas. Actress Julianne Moore and Rosario Dawson even narrated an ad on Trump's immigration policy to try to move voters. Watch this.
Then they created a humanitarian crisis by cruelly separating many of those families and putting the children in cages.
They want to begin imprisoning these children indefinitely.
Imprisoning children indefinitely. So we just take children from immigrants' arms and keep them. They keep them for a limited time while they await trial and make sure that they're with the adults they're traveling with.
First of all, they might not be aware of a third branch of government. It's called the judiciary, okay? And the judicial branch has said only 20 days. So there's no,
They can't
holding.
stay indefinitely.
Maybe we should send them a pocket copy of the Constitution, Raymond.
Here's the unseen bit of this. This whole effort was organized by a group called We Stand United. Mark Ruffalo, Marissa Tomei, and others. These are filmmakers, people in the digital industry. They band their efforts. They tell stories that they hope will move the electorate.
All right.
So they got their, they got what they wanted partially.
Yeah. Now, will they ever stop politicking? Now, tell me what happened at the Israel Film Festival in Beverly Hills. That actually sounds like a fun film festival.
Well, this is the 32nd film festival. Jason Blum, the producer of Halloween and Get Out, he was Oscar winner. He was given an award, a film award. Well, when he got up, he started talking about Trump. And he said, not only does he not like the president, but the president is creating anti-Semitism. This crowd didn't like it. Watch.
It's a film festival, not a political rally.
And now I'm being physically removed by him. Which is why Trump is not the right guy.
They are cat-calling, yelling, and pulling him off the stage. Now, the film festival says, look, we got security in there to take him away for his own safety, but he picked the wrong crowd. Here's the unseen bit of this. This film festival has long been sponsored by the Sheldon Adelson Foundation, a very conservative funder of Republicans. There must have been a lot of pro-Israeli, pro-Trump people in the room. They didn't like this. Look, I don't like this kind of incivility.
Yelling, no.
However, when you go up to get a film award, and that's what the audience expects, you don't throw politics in. And some people were yelling, if you listen closely, it's a film festival, not a political
We're
rally.
sick of hearing your political views when you're accepting an award. We didn't go to the movie to hear your political views. They're not, frankly, very interesting. Sorry, but let me tell you, that was an interesting moment. I guess they don't think he's anti-Semitic, do they?
Before I go, last night we were watching Nancy Pelosi's news conference, Laura, and you noticed that Assistant Democratic Leader Jim Clyburn, standing here behind Pelosi, did not crack a smile throughout the whole presser.
He's not happy.
So it made me think of a song.
What song?
You know
And you tweeted out, why is Jim Clyburn not smiling? Today he did his own interview with CNN. Look what happened. Wait till you see.
A big night for you, back in the majority very soon. Should the focus now for Democrats be more finding common ground with the president?
So he can't smile without you, Laura.
Well,
He
wait a
must have read
second.
your tweet.
I just saw him there, and it was after all the coverage. By the way, great night for Fox News.
Yeah.
Awesome, everybody.
Yeah, 8
great
million
team,
viewers.
great
Unbelievable.
team effort. All the production, all the people behind the scenes. I mean, the people on camera, they're all right, but the people behind the scenes are the best. But I was just watching, like, they won the House.
Yeah.
He looks like he just lost his best friend with old Nancy.
He found his smile the next day, Laura.
I know,
With
but
a
it was
little
just,
encouragement.
but he also had a shawl collar on.
Oh,
which
you're not going to get on people with the shawl collar sweaters. I like those sweaters.
We'll have to ask Tommy whether he's a pro or anti, our executive producer, of shawl collars on men.
I've never seen anyone with a greater opinion of men's couture than you.
Shawl collars.
Oh, come on.
Ixnay. But he smiled. I was glad he was happy.
Andy Williams loves those.
Okay,
So
all
good.
right, and no big turtlenecks. All right, thank you, Raymond. In one post-election press conference with the president, the media revealed they have learned Zippo in the past 2 years. Bongino, Schlapp, and York break down why the country sees the media as more divisive than the president. Next.